Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Town of Wareham Board of Selectmen meeting for April 5th, 2022. Mr. Tropiano, may I have a roll call, please? You're muted, sir.
Sorry. 4 selectmen present this evening, as well as town council and town administrator.
Thank you. I don't expect Mr. Titlebaum to be able to attend this evening. Let's see, Mr. Sullivan, how about the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Announcements, Mr. Manise. You're muted, sir.
Oh, ma'am.
You're all set.
Announcements. Well, as you know, that we had the candidates night last night. That was a pretty nice show. I didn't know what the numbers were on WCTV, and I'll have to take a look at that. But it was nice listening to the candidates and seeing what people want and what they like or don't like. A lot of questions came in that didn't have the opportunity to be answered. So a lot to look forward to and a lot of stuff going on. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Slavin.
Good evening, everybody. First off, on the federal level, the House voted to basically recognize marijuana. I believe that ended up sometime yesterday. It goes on to the Senate, then it'll go back to the House and Senate for whatever they do, going back and forth. And you're probably going to see marijuana being recognized, which will change a lot of the rules and stuff. Probably people who are in prison that may actually get out now. And it's going to probably affect everything to do with marijuana as we know it right now, for as far as how it gets processed, how money goes through, etc. I'm afraid it may not have a positive effect on cash flow for the town of Wareham. I will expect that if it's fully recognized, you're going to see the large liquor beer companies and the big cigarette manufacturers and their monopoly of how they distribute probably take over the whole industry, as they've done in Canada. We got a note today, which I think I think went out to the selectmen as well. I think I forwarded it. Serpent awarded town of Wareham $15,000 plus. We have what they call selectmen or planning board 20-hour timeframes to do projects on Main Street in Wareham for basically, redevelopment, etc. Hopefully for housing and other issues that are coming down the line. We got several letters. I don't know if Mr. Sullivan is going to read them off or put them into a press release about the different areas in onset that we've had long-standing issues. It's taken a huge amount of time because there's no other way to do it. Even though the people don't want to listen to the rules and regulations, we have to follow them. And it's frustrating that something could take 3, 4, 5 years. I have to thank everybody involved. Mr. Bowen has had to go to court. I believe he just received one of our favorite, I don't know what, I'm not even going to make a name or anything, but I guess we have the property under receivership now, if I'm not mistaken. I'd like to thank, there was a person who cleared, that's been clearing Minot Ave on weekends at Indian Neck. It's a single gentleman. I think a couple of days before, he had to have at least 20 bags. I thought I did pretty good on my own years ago, but this guy puts me to shame. And I think he went over to Indian Neck and started the same thing. I just want to really thank him because Sandy went by and saw him, and as she was saying thank you, someone going the other way threw some trash out on the other side of the road. It's enough to make you want to have a gun and shoot somebody.
Wow.
Last night, as Jim mentioned, it was really interesting. We had a young man called, I think if I get the name right, Indiana Troop, who basically ran the meeting. And for a young man as young as he is, having the ability to run that meeting and to keep everything well organized and fully under control, etc. I have to praise him. It's not an easy job. And he did a great, really spectacular job, not just a great job. What else we got? I'll let the couple other things go to later on. That's enough for me.
Thank you. Mr. Tropiano? Announcements?
I have no.
Thank you. I have a couple. We will not be having, we will not be hearing from items 8G, Indigenous Peoples' Day. We will not be hearing the presentation on the large-scale voltaic installation moratorium by Ms. Hayes. We will not be hearing from the lead petitioner on Articles 23 and 24. And we will not be hearing a presentation from the lead petitioner on Articles 20, 22, 25, and 26. Some of those were postponed at the petitioner's request. And even though they appear on the agenda, we will not be taking them up this evening. We also are trying to get people in and out of the meeting quickly. So for instance, during the hearing on the Dudley Brown post, the next person to be either interviewed or to be presenting will be led into the meeting. So at that point, Mr. Forrest and his parents or parent or guardian will be let in. The presentation by Mr. Buckminster, he will be coming in while I'm doing a presentation on the modifying quorum. So you'll see people coming into the meeting who will be muted until I ask them to speak. And I just wanted to make that clear. The other thing I want to reiterate, and I said it last week, but I want to reiterate it again. If you have a complaint about your sewer bill, please call the sewer commissioners. The Board of Selectmen have nothing to do with that. If you have a problem with your water bill, please call the appropriate water and fire district, either Wareham or Onset. The Board of Selectmen have nothing to do with that. There are lots of complaints about a lot of things, but you need to be speaking with the people who are in charge. And I just wanted to reiterate that those things are not under the control of the town of Wareham specifically. And that's it. Let's see, we do have a hearing at 7:15, but do you want to do Mr. Forrest?
Sure.
Okay, would you let Mr. Forrest in? And I believe it's Brendan Forrest. And if there's anybody else with Mr. Forrest, would you raise your hand, please, so that we can let you in? Kim Carmen, yep. Thank you, Mr. Carmen. So Brandon Forrest and Kim Carmen will be with us during the presentation for Jared Forrest. And Jared should be there. Excellent. Okay. Kim, we cannot see you or hear you. And Jared or your parent or guardian, we can't see or hear you. Hi, Kim, how are you?
I'm not very good at this, but hi, good evening.
You did fine. You just fine.
How we doing?
Good. Brandon and Jared. Jared, is that your dad?
Yeah,
Excellent. Okay. Mr. Tropiano. Oh, first of all, Mr. Carmen, would you like to speak about Mr. Forrest?
Yes, I just want to introduce Jared to the board. Jared's our most recent Eagle Scout in Troop 39. The last couple of years, we've had well, as you know, we've had an influx of boys achieving that rank. Jared has aged out of the program, but you know, he's still continuing in the troop, and he's going to be presented with his Eagle on April 23rd at St. Patrick's Church. But I'll let them do the talking. I just wanted to introduce him and his dad to the board, and I very much appreciate the support that you've given us over the years, and Mr. Tropiano has shown up to a couple of meetings and a couple of Eagle ceremonies, and we appreciate the support.
Thank you, Mr. Carmen. We appreciate all of the efforts that you have made on behalf of the children of the town. Jared or your dad, would you choose to address us and let us know a little bit about yourself and what you did for your Eagle Scout program?
Go ahead, tell about your project. Oh, it was basically just like, yeah, I wanted to get stuff in for homeless people because it was during COVID, and so like it was harder for them to like get the money they needed than usual because like most of the jobs were down. So yeah, basically we just sort of supplied them with some toiletries so they could focus their money more on like food and stuff.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Mr. Tropiano, I believe you have a certificate to read for Mr. Forrest.
I do not.
Oh, yes, you do.
Nope. I don't know. That's kind of funny.
I don't have it.
I have it. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, yes, please.
Okay.
Because
This
I
is
don't
a
have a
certificate that we will actually give to you, or someone will give to you on the 23rd of April, Jared, okay? The Wareham Board of Selectmen, Wareham, Massachusetts, awards this certificate of congratulations to Jared Forrest in honor of you receiving the Boy Scouts' highest award of Eagle Scout. You completed a number of challenging requirements, including collecting donations of tents and toiletries for Turning Point in Wareham to help the homeless. Your hard work and efforts to help those in need is admirable. We congratulate you and commend you for your commitment to the Boy Scouts of America. And it's going to be presented to you on the 23rd day of April 2022. Signed by the Wareham Board of Selectmen, myself, Judith Whiteside, Chair, Patrick G. Tropiano, Clerk, James M. Muniz, Alan H. Slavin, and Peter W. Teitelbaum. Congratulations, Jared. And we will, Kim, if you want, you could pick that up in our office to take to the presentation.
I'll do that, and I'll be in touch with your office, and we'll get that picked up in the next week or so.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Jared, and good job. We appreciate your work.
Good job.
very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Stay safe, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so next I would like, okay. Next, let's ratify the hiring of Dale Johnson, part-time laborer for the Municipal Maintenance Department.
Is that your motion?
It is.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by Mr. Muniz. I will do a roll call vote, please. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes.
Mr. Muniz,
Yes.
myself, yes, 400. He is ratified. Or
We
she.
have 2 minutes, so.
Okay, I can quickly tell you about Articles S12 and S13, which modify the quorum requirements for the Wareham Historical Commission. Unfortunately, over the years, they have lost members and have been unable to have meetings from time to time. So in order to reduce the quorum, they had to create 2 articles, one which asks for the reduction of the quorum requirement, or the reduction of the number of people in the committee. And the second was actually to change a bylaw, which had set that up. You do have copies of the explanation, which was given to us by Ms. Neal. I was authorized by Mr. Blair and Ms. Dunham to do the presentation on their behalf because it seemed to be a pretty easy thing to have you okay. Are there any questions? No? Okay, thank you. So those 2 articles will be later on discussed for your recommendation. And I believe it is about to be 7:15, Mr. Tropiano.
All right, so
We will have Mr. Baptiste.
who's here already? Well, he was here. Oh,
Yep.
there he is.
Mr. Baptiste. Do you have someone with you, Mr. Baptiste, or are you alone? Do you have someone else with you, sir?
I do.
Who's on a different, with you in person, but you have another one waiting in the audience?
No one that I know of, just people.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
All
Mr.
right.
Tropiano?
All right, so I move that we open the public hearing for Dudley L. Brown, Post 2846, VFW US Inc., DBA Dudley L. Brown, Post 2846, Forgive Ballpark Road, onset for an alteration of premises and change of manager under the provisions of Chapter 138 of the Massachusetts General Laws for the year 2022.
Second to the motion to open the hearing.
Second,
Second,
Motion made and seconded to go into the hearing. I will ask for a roll call vote, please. Mr. Slavin,
yes.
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes.
Mr. Manise,
yes.
and myself, yes. The hearing is now open. We will hear from the petitioners, Mr. Baptiste.
Yes, Ms. Whiteside. So as all the panelists are aware, I've put in for a change of use for the onset VFW to now combine basically our outdoor dining area in and under a single permit. We've made some adjustments to the access to outside and management of the outside. And since putting in for this permit, I've done a little due diligence of my own. So what I've been told repeatedly is that the building in itself would need to be connected to our building in order to pass the ABCC. So I did a little trust but verify, and I did a little digging. So there was a document that was published, and I could share this document. Is anyone familiar with the document that was published on August 6, 2015, that the ABCC published to govern this type of change of use?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so
We may be, but not without having it in front of us.
okay, and I'm willing to share it if you would give me that capability.
You want to screen share it?
I could screen share the document if you'd like.
Excellent. Go ahead.
Let's see, screen share. Here we go. Share. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll pull this document up here. So basically this document in summary, but we can read through it. So this supersedes the document that was published on August 26, 1989, right? So what happens is this change of outdoor use permit that the ABCC published, they give some specific criteria that you need to comply with in order to make this happen. I believe that we at the VFW have gone above and beyond of what this document has asked for. And in addition to this, I've taken this case to the ABCC and spoke to Mr. Ralph Sacconi, what's that?
Scaramony.
Ceremony. I'm sorry. I messed that up. But either way, I guess he would be considered like the expert on this. So again, this same presentation I'm giving to you now, I've given to him, and they're anticipating this approval and having to go through their due diligence. But anyway, to kind of speed this along, there's some specific criteria it talks about, and I think the language, because it was written by Miss Kim Gainsborough Esquire. So I think as an attorney, they use some specific language in here. One of the languages is number 4. The outdoor area must be contiguous to the licensed premises with either a clear view of the area from inside the premises, or alternatively, the license may commit to providing management personnel dedicated to the area. I want to focus on that word contiguous. So contiguous is specifically not continuous or connected. Contiguous can be defined as adjacent to, like a land, like states, like we're contiguous to Rhode Island. So I think they were specific in that language, and I believe wholeheartedly that we are contiguous. Our outdoor eating area is contiguous to our pavilion outdoor eating area. I'd go one step further to talk about the things that they would like to see in order to control those areas. The premises must be enclosed by fence, rope, or other means to prevent access from the public or a public walkway. One point I'd like to make is we don't have access from a public walkway. This is private land. The other point I want to make is that the rope that we have rope and signage, and we even went one step further at the guidance of some folks to put fence in. I don't want this approval to be with that fence, because I think that fence creates a maintenance issue for us, and I want to stay in line with these guidelines and have a rope be in place as it is now around the entire perimeter of the pavilion with signage. And I want to go one step further, say that all access to this private property is within clear view of anybody working outside in that premises. Every aspect of these guidelines that have been published by the ABCC, we are complying with. There's not one item that we're looking for a variance on or asking for relief on. So with that said, you see the document. I would just like to take questions from any of the selectmen that are not in favor of just moving this forward to the ABCC at this point.
Mr. Baptiste, I'm running the meeting, so I will ask them if they have questions, sir.
Apologize.
That's okay. Are you through with your presentation, sir?
At this point, yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Slavin, do you have questions? Or
No,
comments?
with going over what we have in front of us here, the couple things I was concerned about, this takes care of it. And from what I can see, they comply now.
Thank you. Mr. Manise, do you have questions or concerns or comments?
We received some information through our office administrator that the ABCC, that would be through Mr. Sacramone, and that, they wanted that clear division across the delivery area between the walkway coming from your building to the pavilion, to my understanding. So I think Mrs. Whiteside was there and took some pictures of some fencing you put in, or it was leaning between the two permanent fences you have on either side of that drive. And if you could somehow make it so that it wouldn't be leaning, but it would be not permanently connected, but connected in such a way that you slide it in, when you're using the pavilion as part of your, when you're running, your programs or whatever, and when you're not, for deliveries, that would be great. I'd had no problems. I'd rather see that than a rope going across the driveway. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manise. Mr. Tropiano? By the way, those pictures were provided by Mr. Baptiste.
Okay, thank you very much then.
You're welcome. Well, I did go, and
Whiteside.
if I had taken the pictures and if I were able to screen share them, they would be exactly the same as what you see.
Okay, so as the years have gone by, we've given them as many licenses as they want. They get up to 30 a year. And we've always done it that way because that's the way it was, separated. And this issue about whether you can have it or you can't have it or whatever. Now, as I understand it, that picture was sent to the ABCC by our office manager. And she found that it was denied outright. I mean, he just said, no, this isn't going to do it. So I don't have a problem with this at all. I mean, I'd like to see them be able to use the area, and contrary to what some people have been told, apparently, that I was against this. I've never been against anything that they do out there. I like what they do, and I don't have a problem with it. However, I have a problem with giving them something we can't give them. But I'm also willing to allow this to go in front of the ABCC. We could vote to do it, and then let the ABCC make the call. Because if they're willing to let them have it, it's okay with me. I don't think any of us would deny this thing based on the ABCC approving it.
Thank you. I would have to state that our office staff did in fact talk with the gentleman at ABCC and was told unequivocally, because she sent the pictures, it would not qualify. And so I'm a little concerned that we're hearing, a contrary opinion, and I just would caution you gentlemen to take that into consideration. Is there anybody here who would like to speak on behalf of the petitioner? Would you raise your hand, please? Mr. Baptiste, if you can take your screen sharing down, I can probably see better. See the audience better. Thank you. I don't see anybody wishing to speak on your behalf. Is there anyone here who is speaking against this application? Please raise your hand. And I see none of those. Okay.
So can I say something? How about if we, well, okay, you want to close I don't want to close the hearing. What I'd like to see is how about if we leave the hearing, open it, continue it for now, and let them work it out with the ABCC. And if the ABCC says, okay, then we'll come back and we'll vote it in.
Ms. Whites, I may respond.
Yes.
So again, this is Mr. Tropiano. I think this is a matter of time, right? So this process, again, has to be voted on and approved by the town in order to take that next step and get approved by the ABCC. And I ask, I believe, Mr. Manise. Mr. Manise,
Yes.
what I struggle with, to be quite honest with you, is I often find opinions and there's a lot of things that I want to see, that I would like to see, and things of that nature. But what I ask the selectmen is, I've given the guidelines that are required for us to do this. And I ask that what aspect of those guidelines are we not complying with?
Okay, Mr. Baptiste, I'm going to stop you. Thank you. I think that Mr. Tropiano's, because you have presented documentation that we did not have until just now, which is that 2016 letter. And because we have been told directly by the ABCC that this would not fly, I think that we need to, my suggestion would be to continue the hearing and bring it back next week with a written response from ABCC as to whether it in fact would qualify or not. I don't think
Madam
anybody is. Yes, sir, Mr. Bowen.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Yep.
interrupt. Ben is correct that the ABCC probably wouldn't pass judgment on it until the board had taken action.
Right.
So I think what's open to you is this. You could approve it on the understanding that the ABCC may reject it, and I can discuss that a little bit if you like. Or simply you could deny it. That's kind of where you're at, because I don't think continuing it is going to get the answer you need from the ABCC.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that was Patrick's original suggestion. Now, the question of whether the ABCC will approve it, and I've seen the photographs, is going to depend on how the ABCC views the word contiguous. Now, Ben cited to, I think, paragraph 4 of that memo, which said you had to have contiguity, I think that's a word, plus either a clear view or management personnel. So you've got two different requirements there. The second group, the clear vision or management personnel, we're not worried about that one right now. We're worried about contiguity. Now, the definition of that, Merriam-Webster, is being in actual contact. In the New Oxford Dictionary, it is touching or sharing a common border. Now, being in actual contact, touching, sharing a common border with what? With the described licensed premises. So the question is whether the pavilion touches the described licensed premises and whether what is being sought here would touch the licensed premises. Now, I have my own opinion on it, but I don't have a vote, nor do I want one. The ABCC is going to have its own opinion on it. And I think if you want to move this forward, the only way you can move it forward is either, on one hand, approve with the understanding that the ABCC might not act favorably, and there's no penalty to you if they do that, or deny it because of your view of whether it's contiguous. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Gentlemen, I would also note that on the checklist, the health department has not signed off. The insurance binder is not there, and the business certificate we're missing as of the date that this was printed. So any motion that you make, Mr. Tropiano, would have to include those omissions to be corrected as well, sir.
Okay,
Thank you. I will accept we have to close the hearing. We have a motion to close the hearing and a second.
so moved.
Okay. I'm going to go for a roll call vote to close the hearing. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes,
Mr. Manise.
Yes.
Thank you. And myself, yes. The hearing is closed. I will accept a motion.
so I make a motion that we approve it and see what happens.
And the motion would include the
Yes, include that they get the rest of the application. Before anything, the rest of the application has to be completed properly.
thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
May I,
Well, second it first, sir.
I'll second it with a note that I think you have to include also that acceptance by the ABCC.
Yeah, okay.
on the
Yes, Mr.
conditions
Manise.
As well.
Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Manise.
okay, so in the packet, it does have the letter or the email that was sent from the ABC from Mr. Sacramone, right?
Yes.
I don't know if it has that in here, but I think it does, yes.
So I would like that as part of the motion so that in accordance with the instruction by Mr. Ralph Sacramone of the ABCC related to the driveway access and closure. That's what is recommended by him.
Okay, thank you. Would you accept that as part of your motion, Mr. Tropiano?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're gonna tell them what they want anyway. And
Okay.
I think Rich is correct that it has to touch the building in some form or other. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he was saying that you'd have to have some kind of enclosure between them, like a breezeway or whatever, to make it. And
So-
I think
Ms. Whiteside.
Excuse- the hearing closed.
Excuse me, the only person who's speaking right now is me, Mr. Tropiano.
And so, I mean, I think that's what he said. But like I said, I'm okay with this. Let's send it over there and let them make the call. I mean, it's as simple as that. It's no skin off our nose. And, I'd like to see them get, and if they can get it, great. It's okay with me. I don't have any problem with it.
Okay, so to recap, the motion is to grant, subject to having the paperwork completed and adding into the packet the information from the ABCC directly. Is that correct, Ms. Manise? That's what you wanted
Yes,
in as well?
yes, and it says they will be required to have petitions in the driveway areas at all times.
Yeah.
They will have to remove them only during deliveries. And they
Right.
will agree to that condition, then this may move forward. That's
Okay.
what he said specifically.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Mr. Manise, for
Thank
that clarification.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I think you'd want the condition that Selectman Manise stated put in explicitly as a condition.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, that's,
let's try the motion one more time then, Mr. Tropiano. Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Bowen.
so I move we add condition, add the following conditions. One, that they complete the application properly. And two, that we add the stuff that came from Sacramone as a condition of the license.
In writing. Thank you.
Yes.
Is that your second, Mr. Slavin?
Yes.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote, which would be to approve with those add-ons. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes,
Mr. Manise,
Yes,
and myself, yes, 400. So, Mr. Baptiste, as soon as the paperwork is completed by you and given to the office, we will forward it. Thank you very much for your time this evening. Good night.
Mrs. Whiteside, isn't there also a change in management on this one too?
Yes,
Yes.
it says change of manager, yes.
Yes, there is.
Who's
So we have to have a motion on that one.
Who is the new manager?
Baptiste, right?
No,
No,
No, it's Michael Roderick.
Michael Roderick.
Okay, and has he been quarried?
Yes.
I don't,
Yeah, hang on. Pretty sure he has been, yeah.
Okay, all right, I'll tell you what, I make a motion that we approve Michael Roderick as the manager, to include that the Corey and all the necessary documents are proper.
Is there a second to that? Yes, there is a request for a Cory in here, yes. Is there a
Does he
second to the
also,
motion?
a second, does it also require tips training?
Yes, and he does have
He
the
should
tips
have that.
training. He
Good.
does have the tips training, it's here.
Yep.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded to approve Michael Roderick as the new manager. I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes,
Mr. Manise,
yes,
and myself, yes, 400. So that has been approved. You're all set then, Mr. Baptiste, except for some paperwork. Thank you very much. We will now go to.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Buckminster, are you here? You were.
this is a presentation of Article 57, Beach Mobility Access Mat, Article S10 and S11, Harbor Service Permit Receipt Reserved for Appropriation Account.
Excellent. And while Mr. Buckminster is doing his presentation, you can let Mr. Buckland in as well. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Buckminster. How are you this evening?
Good evening. Great, thanks. Appreciate it.
Good. Could you please speak to Special Article 7, which is the beach mobility access mats, as well as Articles Special 10 and 11, which are the harbor services permits receipts reserved for appropriations account.
Okay, for the beach mats, so my proposal is for 750 feet of 6-foot wide beach mobility mats. They're made of recycled material, bottles, things of that nature, and they're wound into this plastic fabric that is got about a 10-year lifespan on it. It doesn't fade. It doesn't heat itself, so people can walk on it. They won't get burned. In addition, you can drive on it. You can wheelchairs, crutches, you name it. It can go across this mat placement. So we're looking for with the 750 feet, we're going to be looking at 2 locations on the east side of Onset Pier. And I think I've got about 4 locations on the west side of Onset Pier for the main portion of Onset Beach. We have a section that we would be doing at Little Harbor, which is from the handicap parking area into, that one's going to go more directly into the water so you can have access to get down to the shoreline. And also Swift's Beach and Swift's Neck. So we're going to utilize both parking lots and try to tie one at Swift's Neck into the water, and then the other one would take you more into the beach. So, and they're going to be adjusted and moved around. We've been looking at a couple different layouts on it as well. In addition to the request, it would be, I have to build one just transitional ramp that goes from the Shell Point parking lot down into the parking lot, down into the beach where we'll meet the mats. In addition, I've requested funds to have information. You can actually put information boards on these mats. So I requested 8 of them, and it would just be the identification of the beach, carry in, carry out trash. Obviously we want to recognize that community preservation helped fund this project. So we want all that laid out onto these mat advertisement platforms, basically, and we can actually get more and add them. So if somebody wants to sponsor a beach, or we look into something going further, we can actually add some of these information signs. So in addition, there'll be 3 collection carts to roll up the mats. One person can pretty much do the beach installing them. It's pretty lightweight. I believe it's a 50-foot roll is about 88 pounds. So that's kind of what we're going to look with and stay with is the 50-foot rolls, and we may do 100 on one of them, but for the most part, we're going to stay with the 50s.
Thank you. You mentioned CPA funds. Could you tell us what the cost is, sir?
Yep, absolutely. It's going to be the total is $60,000, and that would cover the transitional ramp, the entrance maps, 750 feet of the 700 by 6 foot blue maps, and the recovery tools that use the wrap it all up.
Okay, great. Questions, Mr. Manise?
This is for ADA accessibility and ADA compliance, right?
Yes, it is.
There. And how do you anchor them to the beach area?
They have pins that go down, and you stage them along the sides. So we have they'll give us anchors with everything, and then we just go from there with it.
And you can leave them year round if you wanted to?
We try not to. Most people.
No, I'm just asking if you could, though.
Yeah, you could. Absolutely, you could. And what's nice about is, we were thinking about, God forbid we ever get a storm or something, we can actually pull up the mats or roll them back a little ways if we feel there's going to be conditions that might, go above our normal high tide and get them out of the way so we don't lose them.
You know what? That's great. That could resolve some issues we have with other projects. Thank you very much for the information.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I just wanted to follow up on what Mr. Manise asked. When the things that hold it into the ground, are they level with the material, or do they stick up?
Everything will be flush. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. Mr. Slavin, questions, sir?
Only question, Gary, if I do a face plant, do I bounce back up again?
Yes, absolutely. We're going to make sure that you're not going to do that again.
Thank you.
Mr. Tropiano, any questions, sir?
I have none.
Thank you. I just want to comment that I think this is an excellent idea, and I'm very pleased that community preservation was able to provide the funding for it.
Yeah, I really appreciate their support in this. This is, and there were quite a few people in town that were involved that really wanted to see some of these mats get down there. And, we have such a big waterfront. It's great that we can get people in there.
Excellent. Can you speak to Articles 10 and 11, which are on the special? I know they probably are on, one of them is on the regular meeting, but you've asked them to be on the special, or Mr.
Yeah, I don't know how it's come to 2 of them. There should only be one for $4,375, I believe.
Okay.
Oh, okay, that's good to hear.
All right, so
I mean,
yep, no, there should be one for 4,000 that needs to be eliminated. Or just
the one on the special you're talking about, or are you talking about?
I haven't seen the warrant. I don't even know what my article numbers were until he told me.
Okay, hang on.
thank you.
If both articles are identical, you'd probably want the special because the money would come quicker that way.
Would come quicker, yeah.
I don't think they're identical. I think one of them is for $4,000 and one is for $4,375.
Yeah.
There is a slight difference, yes.
Fortunately, I need the more expensive one.
Okay.
But the regular $4,000 one can that one can just be taken off the warrant, or at town meeting we can just skip over it.
Okay, so if I look at the $4,000 one.
Yes, the straight 4,000 we do not want. That one.
Okay.
That one can be.
Okay, that's S9, and so the one S10 is $4,375.
Yes, correct. So that is
Okay.
the one that we do need, and that is just for our yearly dockage. We have one boat. We actually have 2 boats that we have to utilize a private marina for. And onset we utilize our town docks because we have cameras and security and everything else. If we had, obviously, if I could use Bessie Park or something of that nature, I would, but I just don't like tying up the transient dockage for that. And I just don't feel that it's the appropriate place for our boats to be left. for a long
Excellent.
time.
So I'm just going to clarify that the article, which is on the regular spring town meeting, the annual, not the special, we will pass over because we will be coping with that article in the special. Is that
Okay.
correct?
Whatever one says $4,000 on it, that's the one that needs to go away.
Okay, but yes, okay, thank you. Yep,
I don't know my article number, so.
no, that's okay.
Yep.
All right, does anybody have any further questions of Mr. Buckminster? Thank you very much, Mr. Buckminster. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Next is the presentation of Article 14, length of lease term for development of the Tremont Nail Factory, presented by Ken Buckland.
And Mr. White, you can let the solar study committee individuals in while Mr. Buckland is doing his presentation, please, and they will remain muted, please. Good evening, Mr. Buckland. How are you?
Good evening. Fine, thank you very much. This is on Article S14. It started back in an RFP that was issued back in the end of 2020, and a developer was selected, the Bentley companies out of Warwick, Rhode Island, and negotiations had started on the disposition and development agreement. There are also public meetings that were held to gather some feedback and direction. One of the good things was that the developer was following the vision of the town on the redevelopment of the Tremont Nail Factory. And we prepared a draft disposition and development agreement. Only within that, there were several challenges that we came across, which were increasing construction costs, community requests, potential changing markets, and permitting that comes along with it. So there's risk involved in the opportunity that's there. What was determined was that a 30-year lease was the minimum necessary time to provide the proper return on investment, and then a 90-year option with 2 additional 30-year options was desired. So it's a minimum of a 30-year lease with 30-year options sequentially at the end of each one. But the current allowable lease term in the town is 5 years. So we needed to approve the extension. If we do, we'll get a developer who will redevelop the Tremont Nail Factory in the form of the vision that we see as appropriate to the town. They will pay property taxes. They will cover utilities and maintenance, and rent will be paid as a base amount that increases over time, plus a share of the project's income to the town. So we'll be making money out over the same time period as an increase of the income to the town as the project proceeds. So we're looking to obtain the approval for a lease length of term that extends the lease to 30 years plus 2 30-year options.
Thank you. And that is the recommendation of the Wareham Redevelopment Authority, am I correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
The Board of Selectmen will have the authority to approve the selection of the developer. That will be coming towards you in the next few weeks.
Next week.
Next week.
Yes.
And then you'll also be approving the development and disposition agreement and executing that as part of what comes out of the negotiations with the developer.
Yes, sir. We received both of those documents, or we received the presentation
Proposal.
and we received the letter of request.
Correct.
Okay, great. Questions, Mr. Tropiano?
I have no questions. I'm all set.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Slavin, questions?
Yes, Ken, who holds title to the land
The town holds
buildings.
the title to the land
and the buildings?
and the buildings.
The reason why I ask is with the infrastructure money that's potentially coming down the line, the quicker we get this thing moving along, the better chances that when this infrastructure money comes, the town will be in a position to go after, similar to the ARPA funds, but basically can go after it since it has an interest, a fee interest basically in the land and the buildings. If we didn't, then we couldn't go after it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slavin. Mr. Manise, questions or comments, sir?
Yeah, you just, you mentioned we received a letter and something else. Who's we? Is that the WRA or we, the select board?
Mr. Buckland forwarded me information which will be on the agenda next week, sir. I just got it today, but
Oh,
it will
so-
be before us next week, sir.
Right, so we haven't received it. You have.
That's correct.
Okay. And the RFP has gone out, am I correct? Or it has not gone out and been awarded?
A
Mr.
second
Buckland.
RFP went out in February 17th and was returned in a deadline of March 24th.
And how many respondents did we have?
We had one respondent, Bentley Companies, Bentley Builders LLC out of Warwick, Rhode Island.
Thank you.
You're all set, Mr. Manise?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions of the young man? No? Do you have any questions of us, Mr. Buckland?
No, just be prepared for the next round of good news on the Tremont Nail Factory and redevelopment of it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening, sir. I think we're all set with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tropiano?
So next up, and there were five. Mr. Bessie was here a minute ago, but he's gone. And he says that he couldn't hear or something.
Okay,
But one of the issues I think there is anyway is how many members are on this committee? 9?
no, there's 5, I believe.
Okay, so did they post a meeting?
I would have to ask Ms. McHale if she posted this as a meeting.
Well, so there's 1, 2, 3.
No, there's a majority here. They're all here. Ms. McHale, did you post this as a meeting, ma'am?
I did.
Okay, good.
I-
Okay,
Thank you.
awesome.
You're
That's
welcome.
sure. I just didn't want to get us any hot water. That's all.
Oh,
right.
I didn't want to go there either. Okay,
Excellent.
thank you.
Okay, so
Presentation of Article S15 Solar Bylaw Amendment, Article 5, Section 590 Solar Energy Generation. Article 3, 320 Use Table, and Article 16 Definition presented by Nancy McHale and the Solar Bylaw Study Committee.
thank you. Now, I did ask Ms. McHale if she could limit her presentation to 5 minutes, and then you gentlemen will have the opportunity to ask questions. If you need a few more minutes than 5, Ms. McHale, please feel free. And the other members are here, not just for moral support, but from time to time, they may be able to answer the questions for you as well. I would remind you all that any questions must come through me. Thank you, Ms. McHale. Go ahead.
Absolutely, thank you. I certainly appreciate it. I would have liked to have been able to have my video on, but that's fine. Either way, I wanted to thank the Board of Selectmen, for forming the bylaw committee, and for allowing us all to be here tonight to present this. And we wanted also to thank Mr. Buckland for his guidance and his technical assistance throughout the project. Carl, Denise, Jackie, Ron, and Jim Ekabachi have all been valuable members of this committee and have donated their time endlessly about this. We did come up with a proposed bylaw, which we think will serve the needs of the citizens of Wareham in the future. Our primary goals were to support the Commonwealth. Can we more those on? To support the Commonwealth's renewable energy objectives. We acknowledge the landowners' right to develop solar, and we respect the citizens' right to clean water, to clean drinking water, and the freedom from noise and glare. Some of the significant changes are changing that the planning board is the sole permit granting authority. This puts all of the projects on the same expertise level with those who are going to be granting or denying authority. It limits the size to no more than 5 megawatts in order to balance the options for completing land uses and understanding that the significant contribution that Wareham has already made to solar development with our 19 solar farms. Changes include protections to our sole source aquifer, our globally rare pine barrens, and the unique habitat that is in our communities, more rigorous studies and requirements for noise, lighting, glare, visual screening, stormwater runoff, potential environmental impacts are necessary. We also have put in to require historic and cultural heritage evaluations. This limits the earth removal and grading, and that all earth removal must be approved and consistent with Article 3 of the town's bylaws in order to separate out the issues between mining and solar. Changes include that siting is prohibited on a number of places, including Chapter 97 open space, wetland resource areas, state historic register properties, and habitats that's priority estimated critical natural landscape, or where 50% of the parcel is designated as such from Biomap 2. This is consistent with the new DOER SMART Commonwealth guidelines for solar projects. This is a map of some of the biomap, which is what the SMART regs are being taken off of these days. And then the next map is of the what our 2020 master plan looks like. And as you can see from that, there's a number of the pinkish shaded areas that are for industrial or commercial uses as well. But solar does not create long range good paying jobs. Changes include the restricted siting is allowed with site plan special permits for projects between 250 kW and 5 megawatts in all but the smallest residential areas. Anything under 250 kilowatts is as of right in all districts. Setbacks are 75 feet from the property line, and these do not include any of the required buffers. Diversity of native vegetation is required for screening, and that the use of chemically treated poles is prohibited. Okay. And fencing would be required only for safety and could possibly be eliminated in some projects for wildlife movement. Battery energy storage systems may be included only as accessory to on-site collection. And abandonment and decommissioning surety is increased to 200% of the cost estimate, ensuring the ability to restore the property or reclaim the property. And we would ask that the Board of Selectmen would follow the lead of the Planning Board, who voted 5-0-0 to support Article S15. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McHale. I appreciate the presentation. Just a question, you did send a copy of the presentation to Ms. Slaney in our office?
I believe I did, yes.
Okay, if you would just double check, please, thanks.
Yeah.
Questions, Mr. Slavin?
Not really any questions, because this was, a study committee from the town. When they get close to finishing, I asked if our town council could go over what they had written, because I wanted to make sure we didn't have any words or phrases that would basically make the article defective, and go through this and wait, 2 or 3 months, 4 months, and all of a sudden, the AG's office comes up with a reason why they'll blow it back out. Everybody has to understand that the governor has made really strong commitments for the state of Massachusetts for alternative energy, especially solar, to reach certain numbers by 2030. And that's really what scares me more than anything else. It's very much like the housing issues we're running into right now. They're making a commitment and they're taking away our control to do it the right way, just to make these numbers. So I have my fingers crossed that we're not going to run into a problem because the state wants one thing and we're trying to limit what the state wants. Thank you.
Thank you.
I
Mr. Manise?
also want to thank the group very much.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Manise, comments or questions, sir?
Yeah, I had, well, it's just a question. If someone wanted to put a canopy style solar voltaic array over parking lots, does that require a visual screening, or is that not, is that waived for that type of an application?
Ms. McHale, to answer the question, please.
The canopies are allowed everywhere as of right. Okay, they do not require the visual screening.
Thank you.
Any others, sir? Any other questions? No? Okay. Mr. Tropiano, any questions, sir?
No, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know if the state's gonna let it go by or there's gonna be issues or whatever, but we'll see what happens.
Okay, thank you. I just want to thank the committee. I'm guessing that some of you got gray hair, some of you got a lot less sleep than you were required to have. But it seems that you have put together a definitive and certainly comprehensive proposal for the town meeting. And I just want to thank all of you for your time and the energy and the effort that you have put into this. Ms. Woke, do you choose to speak to us?
Just one quick observation. Again, thank you very much for hearing us out. And that is, we see this as a living document. This is something that provides some guidelines and presents the wishes of the town if they pass this at a special town meeting. But, as energy needs change, as the state makes its recommendations, it gives us an opportunity to adjust rather than start over again.
Thank you for that observation. Mr. Schultz, do you care to speak?
Yes, I'd like to speak in favor of the work that the committee did. And I would like to point out that we were quite cognizant of the state's push for solar energy. So we spent a great deal of time focusing on appropriate siting within our town. We took guidance from the Cape Cod Commission. We read every bylaw that we every other town, and we tried to understand the particular nature of the unique nature of our community, and that's why we tried to restrict those areas that are unique, the Pine Barrens, the sensitive areas of our community, but recognize that we still need to support the state initiative. So there are definitely places in town where these moderately sized arrays could be placed. And again, the other thing is we recognized that the decision to actually install an array really comes down to the landowner and the solar companies. We can only kind of direct them where we want it. We can't tell them that they've got to do it, and we have to be careful telling them they can't. So we took a lot of effort to do the appropriate siting.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Mr. Bessie, do you choose to address the board?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. First, I just want to thank the Board of Selectmen for allowing us the opportunity to be able to go through this bylaw and giving us the opportunity to represent the town in what I feel is a very big thing. I know that, the state obviously is going to do what the state wants to do in regards to solar from a state level. My hope is that, the Attorney General will see the bylaw that has been reconstructed and accept it as written. So I just want to thank everybody that was on the committee with myself for the countless hours, sleepless nights that some probably had trying to really, wrap their head around what we were trying to present for the town. And, the hope is that it will be well received and, voted on and passed at the town meeting. But once again, I just want to thank the Board of Selectmen for allowing us the opportunity to serve our town in this capacity.
Thank you, Mr. Bessie. Ms. Nichols, do you choose to speak to us? No. Yes?
I'm here.
Do you
Um,
choose to address us?
Yes, please, Madam Chairman,
Certainly.
Chairperson. Um, I just wanted to echo what Denise said about it being a living document. This is not the same bylaw that we have in place right now. As we know, the AG turned down the bylaw that was passed at the Springtown meeting. So now we're back to the old one. I think that this is a huge step forward. I think there's places that we could go beyond this. And again, I think we should be looking at this a lot because technology is going to keep changing at a rapid pace. And we're going to need to keep up with it. But if we don't step forward, if we keep trying to stand in place, then we're going to be in worse trouble as far as having any control over what's happening.
Thank you. Ms. McHale, I believe that all of you have had an opportunity to speak. I think the gentlemen have all, and myself have had an opportunity to ask you questions. And Mr. Sullivan, do you have any questions of them, sir?
I do not. Apologies. I was aiding a child who's had a tooth dangling, so the tooth fairy's coming tonight.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Ms. McHale, I thank you very much. And again, the committee obviously put in billions of hours is all I can say. And we wish you a good night. And I will just double check to make sure that this presentation did end up in our office because it will be appended to our minutes. Thank you very much and good night, ladies and
Appreciate
gentlemen.
it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The other items on the agenda, G, H, I, and J are on next week's agenda, so we will go to K. Mr. Tropiano, please. Okay. It's a discussion and possible vote to nominate an individual for a 2022 Serpent Annual Award. Mr. Slavin was very uncomfortable when I talked with him about this, but because he has in fact won a Commissioner of the Year award from Serpent, I have forwarded to you two documents, one that I put together myself and then another which came directly from Serpent, which outlines the things that we know that Alan has done. There is a special recognition award, which I believe best fits the efforts and opportunities that Mr. Slavin has made available to the town. The special recognition would honor a person for specific contributions to Serpent, the region, in the field of planning or economic development. And if you look at the 2 pages of information that I sent to you, to me, it is certainly an appropriate nomination from us, the town of Wareham. I did share with Mr. Buckland the information, and I did speak with a man named Jeff Walker, who I believe is the executive director at Serpent. He was thrilled to see that we would be considering this on our agenda because he feels, as do the staff at Serpent, that Mr. Slavin is clearly a very special person and would be one of their individuals that they would certainly love to see get the special recognition. Any questions or comments, concerns? And Mr. Slavin, you are not allowed to speak. Mr. Manise.
No, I think it's great that we'll be nominating them. We're nominating them or Serpent will nominate him?
No, we would be nominating him to Serpent.
And he works very hard. He's our, as you state, ambassador to, regional and statewide things. And we have to, I have to thank him for it personally. We, as a group, as a board, appreciate everything he does, and it's good to get recognized. Humbling. It's humbling. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Tropiano, do you care to comment on it, sir?
No, I would make a motion that we nominate him, though.
Second.
Motion made in a second, but Mr. Manise, that was a second?
It was.
Excellent. So you would be nominating him for the Special Recognition
Right.
Award?
That's correct.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Little bit of information. There is an awards ceremony on, help me out, Mr. Slavin, May 25th.
Yep.
At White's of Wareham, White's of Westport. And Serpent would, if we would like to, would certainly host a table of Warehamites to support Mr. Slavin. Mr. Slavin is actually going to be the MC for that evening for all of the rest of the presentation. So it's kind of, somebody's going to have to do a switch out. I will send that information along to you, presuming that you gentlemen would like to be present for the award, and I'm sure that you would be allowed to bring a +1, as they say. Mr. Sullivan, any comments, concerns, questions?
No, I think it's well deserved. He goes out there. I hear from other members of from the administrators and such. So I think it's well deserved and a great honor. And it's nothing's better than getting back on the rubber chicken circuit. So
I have a motion and a second to nominate Mr. Alan Slavin for a Special Recognition Award to the 2022 Serpent Annual Special Recognition and Commission Awards ceremony. Any further discussion? I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Tropiano?
Yes.
Mr. Manise?
Yes.
Myself, yes. And Mr. Slavin?
Abstain.
Thank you. I will write the letter of nomination, if that's okay with you gentlemen, to send it directly to Serpent. And I can run a draft by you if you'd like to see it. Okay. And next, Mr. Tropiano, maybe we can knock off some votes.
There's discussion and vote of this town administrator's contract renewal.
No, that's not on the agenda. Sorry,
Okay.
I took it off, yeah.
Discussion, possible vote of, on articles for the 2022 annual spring town meeting. And I have the sheet right here. Spring annual town meeting. Okay, so far we have recommended, well, we missed the capital plan, the budget, the EMS budget. We haven't done that. We haven't done the water pollution control fund. We haven't done the union contract. Is Derek ready for this stuff?
No.
No.
No, he's not.
no, it's I will tell you, my expectation was we would be about 2 hours later because of all the articles set up before this. I didn't know there was going to be a culling of articles.
That's okay.
That's okay. That's fine. So really, we have nothing to add to this tonight.
Well, we heard from the CPC on Article 13, which was the 801 Village.
Yeah, 801 Village, yeah.
Do you want to try and get a motion on that one?
Yeah, I'm not gonna make the motion, though.
Okay. Anyone?
I'll make a motion to put it on the warrant.
No, it's on the warrant. It would be to recommend approval.
I'll make a motion to recommend.
Thank you. And a second?
Sorry, what was the article? I have my.
It's number 13 on the regular. It's the 801 Village. It's the housing that Ms. Kinneberg made a presentation on.
I'll vote. I'm actually not in favor, so.
Madam Chair, and I'm sorry to interrupt. I know a couple of these last rounds with the town meeting warrants, you've tried to have all the members there when you're doing the recommendations. That's
Oh,
different
okay.
than
All
putting
right.
them on, but it's whatever the board wants. I just remember that from the last few
Mm.
Yeah.
months.
Well,
That's right.
the reason there's some 400 votes is because I went into La La Land with
Yeah.
WCTV. So if you gentlemen would like to wait until next week when we have hopefully a full house, that would be fine with me.
But we should have a full board, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Then
Right.
next on the agenda, sir?
So next is any other town business anticipated the last 48 hours. Anybody? Nope. All
Nope.
right. Traders report.
Yeah, and just Rich has lost sound. They just sent me a
Okay.
quick message. There's lost sound, but hopefully he may not need it. Just an update, the notifications went out today for the April 11th through 15th is the annual street sweeping for onset. So they started giving notifications of the parking bans for the area, so they make sure they can hit all the spots. That's interesting because it's onset, especially the village area. All the streets are swept every year. I was hearing a little different, but we have contractors that we bring in specifically for that. So just something I thought should be brought up. The other item is the Everett School auction, just so everybody knows, has been moved, and this is from the auction team. Their request moved to May 11th at noon. So the Everett auction has been moved to May 11th at noon.
Okay.
Thank you.
I also forwarded, it's a rather large document, and it's going around, I believe, on social media now. For the chief of police gave what I thought was a really excellent explanation about the summer events and what's been going on. Specifically, that with the Police Reform Act, it's changed our ability to have summer seasonals. So when you think about it, we've got staffing, including detectives and all the brass levels, if you will, between they can have anywhere from 53 to 53 officers. We've got 44 really the full time, but we used to have 15 to 20 summer seasonals. That's bolstering our force almost about 50% when you get the 20 in there. It's a very big difference. This isn't the end of everything. The chief and I have been speaking about, we're trying to figure out how you move forward, but this is about safety. These events attract a lot of people, especially at night, and things can go south very quickly. So I applaud his the work that he and his team have done on it. I know it's not an easy decision for them. He's a very community oriented chief, so it's and I know it's frustrated some people, but this is done out of the best interest for the safety for not only the residents or the event goers, but also the public safety staff as well. So.
Thank you. I think it's important, Mr. Sullivan, if I could just follow up on what you started to say. On December 31st, 2021, Governor Baker signed the police reform legislation for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This is something that was laid on the entire state. Summer police officers used to only have basic training hours of 372.5 hours. And after the Reform Act was signed, they had to have 800 hours of training. And so this is not something that Wareham had any control over at all, except for being able to hire people who had enough hours. And as the chief very correctly pointed out, if they have enough hours to be a part-time, then they can probably get a full-time job someplace else. So it's unfortunate. It's fortunate that the act is intended to increase police safety, and unfortunate that the roll down effect, if you will, is that we cannot have the summer seasonal employees.
And it's so people know as well, there's we don't just use our own staffing during these events. We have outside staffing.
Hmm.
We also have, I mean, it's not something you speak about, but such large events, you have anti-gang units. You have, there's a lot that goes on
Mhm.
behind these. And I think it's a credit to our first responders, because I'll tell you, the fire districts are a part of that. EMS is there in full. Municipal maintenance is doing the work on the setup. It's everybody putting together, and I think people have really thought that haven't really thought about the operations because it's been seamless many times and it's been safe. So that is paramount.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Do you have any other items to bring up?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. I will go to.
Can I ask a question here?
Oh, sure. Sorry.
How much did we expend on the seasonal police officers in previous years?
Well, let's see if I can pull up the budget, Jim.
Okay. That money's not, I mean, it's not being expended for that purpose any longer. Last year or this upcoming year, correct?
Yeah, it would be basically a hold in the budget. I'm gonna try and pull up that line.
Yeah.
I don't have access to the breakdown on me, Jim, so I apologize.
Well, you can send that to me. It just,
Yeah.
it's food for thought, that's all.
Yeah, so I mean, if you think about it, the seasonals cost you about, if I remember, it's usually running you between 60 to 90,000. So that would cover if they remove that totally, you'd guess that'd be one officer, including some of the benefits.
Right. So that money's not being used for seasonal, so maybe we can hire another officer. And is there a possibility to hire individuals who have a presence but not arrest power? So you have a presence and they can have direct contact? Is that, I mean, have you discussed that?
Yeah, without this may sound like a flippant answer. It's not meant to be. There's a lot of different ways you can go on it. We're seeing some places do that. I just don't think we're in the position to move forward on those till we've basically vetted out all the options, if you will. But that has been brought up. Some people have talked about some of the private, if you will, private security and such. But it's, when you have the seasonal police, a lot of them are riding around with our officers. They are part of our police department, if you will. These outside measures, there's some concern about the level of professionalism that will come out.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about hiring outside concerns, just a different level of summer security personnel.
Right.
But that's all right. I just figured I'd throw it out there. I'm sure you've thought about it and you're kicking it around. And if we're not expending the funds for seasonals and they need a position that,
Yeah.
and if we can't expend it, I think that would be a good use of those funds. Thanks.
And Selectman Muniz, if it's not me thinking about it, the brass over at Wareham PD are excellent at what they do, and they've been chewing this over. So I know it's something that
you.
they're concerned about.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Any other things, Mr. Sullivan? I think you already
ahead.
said no. All set. Excellent. We will go to liaison and initiative reports. Mr. Manise.
Okay. We didn't do comments earlier, did we? We did
No, so do
no
comments and liaisons at the same time if you want.
Yeah,
Sure.
you know what? That's great, actually. I think we could probably combine the three things that the selectmen do.
So do I. I agree with you.
I haven't seen the citizens comment section on the agenda the last couple of weeks. I hope we'll be doing that. That's a comment. So Liaison reports, I have my refuse district meeting tomorrow, Zoom. And that's really convenient for 2 towns. Nothing hard on the agenda. So I'll be doing that, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slavin.
Okay. I made a comment before. I just want to reiterate to everybody that we need to follow what the state is doing. We talked a little bit about the solar bylaws and stuff. We also have to look at the marijuana changes. There are bills sitting up there right now that there is probably 100% chance that our host agreements are all going to be reviewed. Also, it looks as if we are going to only be able to get that 3%. We're going to lose that extra percent that we have for extra expenses and stuff as it's listed. It seems as if, from what I can see with all the paperwork and everything that's up there right now, we're definitely going to probably lose half what we expected to get, which affects our money for the new police station and other things that we use that money for. Third item that we have to watch is the outdoor dining. They've extended it for years, we know, but there's bills up there now to make the outdoor dining permanent. We have to watch and see what they're going to do, what the rules are going to be. I'll do the best I can through the MMA and the county, et cetera, but these are things that are just constantly happening. And it seems as if I hate to use the word unfunded mandate, but it seems to be a common thread these days. Every time they come up with a great idea, it usually ends up the cost of the cities and towns, municipalities, more money than the benefit. And it really is getting to be difficult because we just don't have the funds to work as it is. And just a quick comment. When the police reform came in, that was a lot of I hate to use the word because I'll get in trouble, a knee-jerk reaction to what was going on in the whole country. And it was a political bill, really. And some of the stuff requiring, the police training that Derek talks about, over doubling the amount of hours, the requirement, and I'm not sure where we're at yet, of going through all the police officers and having to send reports into the state, to the special committee they put together about all actions with every police officer, the status, etc. These are things that there is no reimbursement whatsoever. And it's not in our budget to easily do this. So it's very discouraging in my opinion, for this at the Capitol in Boston to sit there and put these rules through without any thought whatsoever of the difficulty municipalities have in complying with them. And then when they go ahead, like they did with the MBTA, to hold over our head, if we don't do this, well, you won't be able to go for Mass Works grants. You won't be able to get the HCD grants. It's time we say enough is enough, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Are you all set, Mr. Slavin?
Yeah, I'm well done.
Thank you. Mr. Tropiano, we're doing comments and liaison reports together.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm okay.
Okay, great. I know that there will be an opening for 5 library trustees in June. I believe the Board of Library Trustees has asked Madam Moderator if they could hand out some information at town meeting. And that information, because I've seen it, is trying to recruit people to be on the Board of Trustees, Wareham Board of Library Trustees. They meet once a month. They have rotating secretarial requirements, but I do know that I've been asked by the chair of that committee to please, announce it, and announce it again. So I'm announcing it again. The Board of Health is updating and has updated its motel regulations to try and address the issue of people who have lived in motel rooms for more than the 21 days that is allowed by law. And as we know, some people have been living in motels in basically a couple of rooms for 5, 10, or 15 years. So that has been on their radar, and they have been actively working on that. And in doing so, they are trying to be cognizant of the fact that many of these people have no place else to go. They're not trying to throw anybody out on the street. They're very aware of the fact that some people don't have first, last, and security deposits for apartments, so that this has been a catch-all housing arrangement for some people in this town. And that's it for my liaison reports and comments.
Okay,
Mr. Tropiano?
next I move we make the payment to Ricky Bowen.
Motion made and seconded. Is there a second? I didn't hear a second.
Second,
Motion made and seconded to pay Mr. Bowen. Any discussion on that? Roll call vote, please. Mr. Slavin,
yes.
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes.
Mr. Manise,
yes,
and myself, yes, thank you.
Next, I move we approve the minutes of March 15th, 2022, the March 22, 2022 for the regular scheduled Board of Selectmen's meeting.
Can I have a second, please?
Second,
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of March 15th and March 22 of 2022. Those are the regular session meetings. Any discussion on those? I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
yes.
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes.
Mr. Manise,
yes,
and myself, yes, they are approved 400.
Next, I move we approve the executive session minutes for March 15th, 2022 and March 22nd, 2022 and hold.
Motion made to
Second.
approve and hold and seconded. Any further discussion? I will go for a roll call vote, please. Mr. Slavin,
Yes,
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes.
Mr. Manise,
yes.
and myself, yes, 400. They are approved and held. So, gentlemen, tomorrow, if you would go to the town hall and sign the documents that require your signatures, that would be appreciated. Mr. Slavin, is there any other business to come before this astute board?
motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second,
Well,
is
I
not
don't really wanna
debatable.
Stay for a while.
It is not debatable. Motion, I will roll call, please. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Tropiano.
Yes.
yes. Jim
Yeah,
Manise, yes.
Mr. Manise and myself, yes, 400. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of the evening, and thank you to all of the participants to tonight's meeting. I appreciate the presentations, and I appreciate the ability to get some business done. Appreciate it. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.